Welcome back to the Modern Blueprint. I'm your host, and today we're stripping away the noise. If you spend even 5 minutes scrolling through social media these days, you're going to run into the phrase high value man. It's everywhere, but the internet has completely distorted what that actually means. To the algorithms, a high value man is defined by a checklist of external assets. It's the sports car, the penthouse view, the luxury watch, and a rigid, almost cartoonish stoicism. We've been conditioned to believe that value is something you wear, drive, or flaunt. But true value and true strength, it doesn't scream, it doesn't need a microphone, and it certainly doesn't need a flashy social media feed to validate its existence. Today we are moving past the superficial hype. We are going to deconstruct the real anatomy of a high value man. We are talking about the internal architecture, the core psychological and behavioral qualities that set a man apart in a crowded, distracted world. Specifically, we are going to unpack 4 defining pillars: why he doesn't entertain everyone, why he never resorts to disrespect even under fire, why he is entirely secure and unthreatened in front of anybody, and how an unyielding focus on his vision governs his entire life. If you are looking for a blueprint on how to build genuine unshakable character, or how to recognize it in a world full of imitations, you are in the right place. Pillar number 1, the power of selective attention, or in other words, not entertaining everyone. Let's start with the first pillar. In the modern landscape, attention is the ultimate currency. Everyone is buying, selling, or begging for it. You see it everywhere. People constantly chasing validation, jumping into every online argument, trying to please every person they meet, and leaving their energy wide open for anyone to drain. A high-value man operates on a completely different frequency. He understands a fundamental truth: his attention is expensive, and his access is restricted. He doesn't entertain everyone. Not out of arrogance, but out of a deep reverence for his own time and peace of mind. Think about it this way: if you leave the front door of your house wide open in the middle of a chaotic city, you cannot complain when the mud, the noise, and the stray animals ruin your living room. A high-value man keeps a strict guard at the door of his life. He does not grant casual access to his mental space, his time, or his emotional energy. We live in a culture that mistakes popularity for importance. We think the man with the loudest voice or the biggest circle is the most successful. But real strength is found in subtraction and not addition. A high-value man doesn't feel the need to be liked by everybody. In fact, if everyone likes you, it usually means you haven't stood up for anything real. He doesn't engage in gossip. He doesn't participate in tribal workplace politics. He doesn't respond to cheap provocation on social media. If a conversation doesn't build, educate, inspire, or bring genuine joy, he simply opts out. This quality shows up prominently in his romantic and social life. A high-value man does not entertain multiple low-investment connections just to stroke his ego. He doesn't keep a revolving door of people around just to feel wanted or to numb his boredom. If he is dating, he is highly discerning. He doesn't play mind games, and he doesn't tolerate them either. If a situation or a person lacks substance, consistency, or mutual respect, he doesn't stay to argue or to try to fix them. He doesn't send paragraphs explaining why he is leaving. He just calmly, quietly closes the door. His silence isn't a passive-aggressive punishment. It's just a reallocation of his most valuable asset, his time. He understands that every second spent entertaining the wrong person or a petty conflict is a second stolen from his purpose. Moving on to pillar number 2, the weapon of absolute respect. Now, this one is a massive differentiator in today's climate: absolute respect. There is a toxic misconception floating around the internet that to be a powerful, high-value alpha male, you have to be rude or dismissive or reply to everything in a savage way. We see these internet gurus telling men to put others down to lift themselves up, or to treat people with a cold, calculated disdain to maintain the upper hand. Let's see the record straight right now. Cruelty is a counterfeit for strength. Disrespect is the loudest admission of insecurity. A high-value man is never disrespectful, period. Confidence plus inner peace is equal to zero need to demean others. Whether he is talking to a corporate CEO, a waiter at a restaurant, an ex-partner, or someone who completely disagrees with his political views, his baseline demeanor remains anchored in respect. Why respect is an inside job? Why is he like this? Because he understands that how he treats other people is a direct reflection of his own internal state, not theirs. If a man is constantly snapping at people, insulting them, or acting arrogant, he is revealing that his inner world is a chaotic, fragile place. He is projecting his own self-loathing and fear onto the world. A high-value man is at peace with himself because he holds himself in high regard. He has no desire to lower someone else's dignity. How he handles conflict, but let's be clear. Being respectful does not mean being a doormat. It does not mean he lacks a backbone or that he allows people to walk all over him. Far from it. When a high-value man is crossed, disrespected, or pushed into a corner, he doesn't explode into an emotional tantrum. He doesn't resort to name-calling, petty insults, or shouting matches. He handles conflict with the chilling, elegant composure. He sets firm, uncompromising boundaries. He states his terms clearly, calmly, and directly. If those boundaries are crossed, he enforces the consequences without drama. Think about the strongest men you have ever met in your life. They don't need to yell to be heard. When a man who is consistently respectful and calm suddenly lowers his voice and says, "We are not going to do this," the entire room stops and listens. That is true authority. It is the controlled discipline of a man who knows he possesses immense power but chooses to govern it with dignity. Moving on to pillar number 3, unshakable security, not insecure around any woman. Our third pillar takes us deep into the dynamic of relationships and self-worth. This is a massive pain point for so many men today. We live in an era where men are deeply confused about how to show up around women. On one end of the spectrum, you have men who put women on pedestals, idolizing them, losing their identity and becoming desperate to please. On the other end, you have men who treat women with cynicism, resentment, and underlying hostility born out of fear of rejection. Both behaviors spring from the exact same root cause, profound emotional insecurity. A high-value man does not suffer from this sickness. When he stands in front of a woman, no matter how beautiful, intelligent, highly successful, or independent she may be, he remains entirely grounded. He is not intimidated, and he is not infatuated to the point of losing his mind. The fall of the pedestal. Why is he so secure? Because he does not derive his sense of self-worth from a woman's validation. An insecure man sees a beautiful woman and immediately thinks, "What do I need to say or do to make her like me? How do I prove I'm wealthy enough, smart enough, or good enough?" He changes his opinions, adjusts his posture, and performs like an actor on a stage. A high-value man doesn't perform. He knows exactly who he is, what he brings to the table, and what his values are long before he walks into the room. He views a woman not as a prize to be won, a judge to be feared, or an ego boost to be chased, but simply as another human being, celebrating success without fear. This security shines brightest when he is with a highly successful, competent woman. Many men are secretly terrified of a woman's brilliance. If she earns more money, has a bigger platform, or possesses immense intellect, an insecure man feels diminished. He might try to undermine her achievements, make passive-aggressive comments, or try to control her to protect his fragile ego. The high-value man is entirely free from this fear. He doesn't need to be the smartest or most powerful person in every single room to feel like a man. He celebrates her wins genuinely. He is inspired by her intellect. He supports her ambitions without ever feeling like he is shrinking in her shadow. His masculinity is not a glass ornament that shatters the moment a woman shows strength. It is a solid foundation that can support and complement her strength. He knows that a partnership isn't a competition. Pillar number 4, the North Star. Unyielding focus on his goals. This brings us to our fourth and final pillar, the engine that drives everything else we have talked about today, an unyielding focus on his goals. If you take away a man's purpose, you take away his anchor. A man without a mission, without a clear vision of where he is going, is an incredibly dangerous thing to himself and everyone around him. He becomes hyperreactive, easily distracted, emotional, and prone to chasing cheap, short-term pleasures just to feel alive. A high-value man is entirely governed by his North Star. He is on a mission to build, to create, to provide, and to realize the highest potential of his mind, body, and spirit. The rule of the main thing. For a high-value man, his goals are not hobbies. They are not things he works on only when he feels motivated. They are his non-negotiables. He wakes up every day with a profound sense of duty to his future self, his family, and his legacy. This deep sense of purpose is exactly why he is able to execute the other pillars we have discussed. Why doesn't he entertain everyone? Because he's too busy building his empire. He doesn't have time for nonsense. Why is he never disrespectful? Because he understands that picking petty fights wastes cognitive energy that belongs to his mission. Why is he not insecure around women? Because his primary source of fulfillment comes from his internal achievements, not external approval. A man's purpose must always be greater than his distractions. The power of no. This focus gives him a superpower that very few people possess today. The ability to say no and mean it. He can say no to a late night party when he has to build his business at 5 a.m. He can say no to a toxic, dramatic relationship that threatens his mental clarity. He can say no to short-term financial gains that compromise his long-term integrity. When a man is locked onto a target, his life simplifies beautifully. The chaotic noise of the world filters out, leaving only what matters. He isn't checking his phone every 2 minutes to see who texted him or who liked his post. He is immersed in the deep, satisfying, often lonely work of self-mastery. He knows that true success isn't an overnight miracle. It is the compounding interest of boring, disciplined daily habits executed flawlessly over years. So, in conclusion, as we wrap up today's episode, I want you to take a step back and look at the complete picture we have drawn today. Notice how nothing we discussed requires $1 million in the bank, a specific genetic lottery, or a collection of luxury goods. Being selective with your attention costs nothing. Being absolute in your respect costs nothing. Being secure in your own skin costs nothing. Being relentlessly focused on your vision costs nothing. These are not privileges reserved for a select few. They are deliberate choices. They are habits of the mind and the spirit that any man can choose to cultivate starting today, right this very second. The world doesn't need more loud, arrogant, hyperactive men trying to desperately prove their worth to an audience that doesn't care. The world is starving for men of substance, men who are quiet, grounded, respectful, secure, and fiercely dedicated to an honorable vision. So here is my challenge to you this week. Look at your own life through the lens of these 4 pillars. Where are you leaking your valuable attention? Where are you letting emotional reactivity replace dignity and respect? Where are you looking for outside validation instead of building internal security? And most importantly, what is your North Star? And are your daily actions reflecting it? Stop chasing the internet's version of value. Build it from the inside out. Be the anchor in the storm. Thank you for tuning into the Modern Blueprint. If this episode brought value to your life, do me a favor. Share it with a man who needs to hear it today. Leave us a review and subscribe. Until next time, stay grounded, stay respectful, and keep your eyes locked on the target. Peace.